the Karnataka Congress has complained to the Chief Electoral Officer. They've registered a complaint against the NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu, alleging that all the BJP MLAs were summoned to a five-star hotel and then provided luxurious rooms, food, liquor, etc. All of this in the guise of training MLAs to vote, and this amounts to bribery and undue influence on voters. So the Karnataka Congress now filing a complaint, as I said, against NDA's presidential candidate Draupadi Murmu. Harish Upadhyay now joining us with more details. Harish, what are the allegations that are being made by the Karnataka Congress at this point?
Well, all the 120-odd MLAs of the BJP were at a resort on the outskirts of Bengaluru on Saturday and Sunday. They were asked to assemble there on Saturday afternoon. And the Congress now says that this amounts to bribing them and influencing the voters in the presidential election. And they've approached the Karnataka Chief Electoral Officer with this complaint, saying that the office should take note of this. They're saying that they were kept at this five-star hotel and provided luxurious rooms, food and liquor. And they have been influenced by the BJP to vote for their presidential candidate. And this needs to be looked into by the Chief Electoral Office. Remember, this is not the first state where such allegation has been made, but Congress here taking the official route and complaining to the Chief Electoral Officer.
Has there been a response from the BJP so far, Harish?
Well, the BJP hasn't responded yet, but the BJP at the beginning of this stay at the resort on the outskirts of Bengaluru had said that this was a gathering to ensure that MLAs are trained to or told how to go about the whole process, and they're trained about it, and that they want to ensure that all the votes, party votes, go to the NDA candidate, and there's absolutely no way that a vote gets declared invalid, and that's the reason all of them are gathering. There was a bit of a criticism that MLAs, especially from North Karnataka, which is facing flood-like situation, were also summoned. Some of the MLAs were not very keen on staying 2 days in the resort. They wanted to directly come and vote on Monday in Vidhan Sabha, but the party insisted that all of them gather there. On Saturday, that is the justification given by the BJP on Saturday, saying that...
Harish, I'll just request you to stay on with us. I apologize for interrupting. We have from the KPCC, Sanket, Yenagi now joining us. What are the allegations that you're making at this point?
It is purely a corrupt practice under the Representation of People's Act in as much as the presidential election rules. And any kind of inducement, any kind of, offering anything else, either it's in the form of a food or a liquor or an accommodation, or be it of any kind, it is called as a luring. And it is purely a corrupt practice. It is against the principles of fair elections. Free and fair elections have to be completely free from any of the allurement. And here it is clearly a case where the individual MLAs, though they have been the party members or otherwise also, they have not been allowed to cast their vote freely. This is amounting to a corrupt practice, and this election itself is not valid to this extent.
No, so two things that I want to understand. One, the justification that came before what the BJP is calling this training is that they wanted all their MLAs to know how the voting process looks, and they also wanted to ensure that the entire flock is together and they go and vote in favor of the NDA's presidential candidate. What is wrong in that?
Training is different. So taking them to a private resort, making them to stay together and offering them every kind of facilities is entirely different. It is not kind of a training at all. If it is a training, why it was only before the previous day of the election? And more so, they have been taken to the place of voting in a particular bus. In the sense, they were confined, they were wrongfully restrained.
No, but I'm trying to understand if they just want their flock to stay together to ensure that all the MLAs vote for their candidate, what is wrong in that? Because the reason I'm asking is because look what happened yesterday when these this entire presidential election took place. Your party actually had to face cross-voting as well. So what is wrong in what the BJP did? Just trying to keep its flock together.
It is not a cross-voting or otherwise here. Whether they vote for a particular candidate or they do not vote for a particular candidate, that's also entirely different. But the question now is, whether they were freely allowed to vote or cast their vote.
Okay, let me
is
take
not
that
so.
question to BJP's S. Prakash. The criticism and the allegation from the Congress is that this was a corrupt practice. The MLAs were not allowed to vote freely. How do you respond?
No, it is very immature and childish criticism by the Congress party. They are all adult MLAs who came to the Vidhan Sabha together with all other MLAs and voted for Draupadi Murmu. In fact, he should understand why Goa MLAs were shifted to Chennai, 5-star hotel, by the Congress party, fearing some poking as they alleged. What about that? They should look to their behind first before making irresponsible criticism against the BJP MLA. Nobody can be kept, wrongful confinement can be done, or nobody can be forced to vote for a particular candidate. Every BJP member was enthusiastic to vote to Draupadi Murmu. The problem with the Congress party is whenever they lose their case, they try to dig out something to make allegations against the Bharatiya Janata
No,
Party.
see, there is nothing about winning or losing because the numbers were always in the favor of the NDA and India
Then what is
will
the
get
problem?
its first tribal president. Essentially, the allegation coming in is that this was seen as a form of bribery when you take them to a hotel and there is food, alcohol, etc. involved.
Who told him that they have been served alcohol by the party? Who told them? They were there to take the training for the voting, how to vote properly without making invalid vote. What is the problem with that? Most of the elections, even Congress party has done it.
Okay.
Now they could not do it. They have many cross voting must have happened in their party block. That is why they are raising all these insignificant issues.
Okay, insignificant issue is what the BJP is saying. Corrupt practice is what the Congress is saying. Unfortunately, I'll have to leave that conversation there. I'd like to thank the party spokespersons and my colleague Harish as well. We'll keep tracking all these developments and much more.